Working from home may be here to stay. Surveys revealing the shift is leading to longer work days and more work, but increased happiness, with 3 in 4 annoyed it took a pandemic to try and make it happen. Adjusting to COVID-19 restrictions with blended office and remote working having a huge impact on company cultures though. So how do we keep culture strong even if we're not working next to each other anymore? For more on this, we're joined by Zoe Routh from Inner Compass Australia. Thanks for your time.
Good to see you again, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, for many Victorians today, we're being told by the Premier that we can head back into the office, about a quarter of staff, but many people have really been enjoying the flexibility they've had before.
Oh, that's right. There's been a huge proportion of people who have really reveled in this experience. Those who prefer to work on their own, so classic introverts, are very happy with the fewer distractions. There is a whole group of people, though, 2 groups in fact, that are not dealing with it as well. And the first is working moms. They have found the work from home directive problematic and challenging because not only do they have the education of their kids at home, but they've got ongoing job responsibilities. And they tend to take a bit more of that home education piece than their partners. So working moms are really not enjoying it as much. And the other group is young people. So those who are not yet in a long-term relationship and they really rely on the social aspect of going into an office for their social engagement. And so those 2 groups of people have really struggled the most through the work from home directives and are really looking forward to getting back into the office for that work-home separation.
Yeah, very much so. But trying to negotiate these boundaries and expectations, talk to us about that as well in terms of setting a culture.
I think this is a really important thing for leaders, is because I think there was a lot of assumptions as we put people into work from home and a lot of good faith that people would do the right thing and work consistently and produce their job results. And I think in some cases people have taken advantage of that. They've assumed that they have complete flexibility of their roles, and that isn't always the case. I was talking to a leader the other day, and he rang one of his junior staff to talk about a case that they were working on, a piece of work. And she said, "Oh, can I call you back? I'm just at the gym." And it was 2:00 in the afternoon, and they had a client commitment. And he put down the phone and he was like, "I'm not sure that that's entirely okay." But they hadn't had a discussion about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in working from home. So I think these are really important conversations that leaders need to have, is how much flexibility in your workday can you actually implement?
Yeah, very much so. And talk to us about fear setting, not just goal setting.
This is a really important piece of the puzzle because I think as this pandemic drags on, people have gotten over the adrenaline rush of bonding together and working through the challenges and the novelty of it all to a bit of deflation and struggle and boredom essentially with that. So one of the things I think leaders need to do is not just be Pollyanna and go, rah, rah, it'll be fine, but actually think, if this continues indefinitely and as it seems to be panning out, then what we need to do is look at the worst case scenario. We need to confront the brutal facts. And not every business is thriving through this, and a lot are actually being decimated through this experience. And I think when we sit with our team and confront the brutal facts and go, right, well, what is the worst case scenario? Let's work our way through that so that we can make the tough decisions in advance. Strangely, that is actually more reassuring because we don't have all this unexpected anxiety because we've worked our way through it all already. And the Navy SEALs do this all the time. So they go into a new situation, they scan the environment, they do worst case scenario options in their head, they plan what they would do, and then they park it and get on with what they were doing. So the idea is that they rehearse the worst case scenario. So if the worst case scenario happens, they're primed neurologically for that. And I think we can do that in our work with our teams. Is a little bit of that. Look at the worst case scenario, plan ahead so that we can calm down and get on with the job at hand.
It's interesting, isn't it? You think about the huge cost of offices that companies have, and it must be one of the biggest costs for any business is the real estate footprint that they have, as well as the staff too. And you wonder whether it will be cheaper these days to have people working from home in businesses where you can, of course, and then to be able to take the team out for a lunch on a Monday and a Friday. Instead of booking a co-working space, you could just book a restaurant, take everybody out for lunch, and probably great for culture and great for keeping costs down as well.
Oh, you're my kind of boss. I would love to get taken out for lunch as a celebration thing. And I think you're right. Leaders are looking at the overhead costs, and then many are going, you know what? We can reassess our travel budget. We can reassess.
But the reason
our
I
office
mentioned
space
going
budget.
out to a restaurant, though, is when leaders look at overhead costs, it can actually impact the culture of the place if they think that their bosses are just penny pinching and requiring people to work from home. And then your staff might say, well, can you pitch in for my home computer? Can you pitch in for my increased electricity bills at home now as well? And all of a sudden, those very costs that a leader thought that they were cutting. So giving back, and whether it's a lunch or two during the week, certainly could help.
I think that's right. And I think this negotiation about what an employer is responsible for when it comes to work from home costs is a really challenging one. We've seen that in the media recently about how bosses are negotiating that. I think we need to be careful about tokenism, though. I think just throwing a lunch once a week can become an expected thing, and we need to be nurturing culture in a deliberate, systematic way that isn't just about here's your free lunch each week. It's more about other things in regards to culture that we need to maintain. Things like actually paying attention to our staff and being considerate and concerned about them, developing those strong interpersonal relationships. Those are the core fundamentals of culture, as opposed to a small celebration, which is kind of like the icing on the cake, not the whole meal.
All right, we'll leave it there. Zoe Routh from Inner Compass Australia. Always appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Aaron.